the art. Today we're going to do a still life with colored pencils. So I'm going to be using Prismacolor, which it's kind of the Rolls Royce of colored pencils. Again, kind of like with the markers, you can do this sort of thing with regular cheapo colored pencils. These are just extra smooth, and so I got these. You can actually buy these individually too if you want to slowly build a collection. A set like this is usually like 50 bucks. I got it on sale for 40. But again, your little $4 pack from Crayola will do just fine as well. So when picking a still life, you want to know what you're going to do. So oil painters or anyone doing a still life who want to do a more realistic representation may have a more complicated still life. They really carefully arrange things. They really consider light direction. But with the way I work, my style, I wanted a little bit simpler still life. So I didn't have too many objects. You can see I have them not really clustered together. They're arranged in a way that I feel will work for what I have in mind for what I want to do. So I just grabbed some things that I thought would look nice together. And what I think about a lot is color. So I picked doing it outside because I'd have a lot of green in the background. I have the nice warm brown of the table. The white of the skull will really be something that will pop. But then I added the red kettle because I thought, you know, just having some bright red there would be a nice splash. Have a colorful doily, and then a few items that will just be nice for curves and cool shapes and stuff. So let's get started. Oh, we're going. Oh. Alright, so I've started a little bit of the horse skull here. I am going to add more. So for example, I want to have a little of the incisors showing here. So I'm just going to do this basic shape. And then I want to have a careful line done of the jawline. Because it's not a straight line. And this is one thing when you look at objects, it's nice to pay attention to the little curves because they can really add some elegance if you get it right and don't just generalize a big curve. Alright, so then I'm going to have it come up here a bit. And when I color, there will be this wide band of white here, but it's not going to be solid. And then I'm going to add some of the little horse sculpture here. I picked this horse sculpture because I thought it would be neat to kind of have a little animation in our still life. I've done this before where like I have a sculpture of something that's a living organism, and I'll try to spread it out so that it looks like it's actually walking across the page. And I just think that's kind of neat to have that sort of thing in a still life because it has motion to it, which is kind of challenging for something that's a still life. So I've got little bits of this horse. I'm going to put its legs here and there. I don't change the actual shape of the sculpture. The trick is to have the same pose of the sculpture but placing different pieces of it around. So one time I did one that had a horse that was running, and so I didn't do different poses of a running horse. I just did the same ones that little sculpture had, and it made it feel like it was running off in the corner. Do a little bit of its belly here, and then we'll put its hoof here. Here. We want this leg that's up in the air in a couple of places because that'll show that it's walking, marching along. And put it also here. So now we have, there we have this little horse marching across our still life. Ear here, bit of mane. There we go. And the tea kettle, I had started a little bit. The handles I also thought would add some cool curves to our still life. So I've got these nice shapes here. And when I color it, that'll be mostly black, which will add some nice contrast to some of the brighter colors that we're gonna have. So I'm just gonna have the handle in a few spots like this. And then we've got the little handle of the lid, which is another kind of neat shape. And I'll have just a little bit of the top of that. And then I'm gonna bring the body of the kettle over here. Now I don't just, it may seem like I'm placing these randomly, but when I'm doing this, I'm actually looking and seeing where it would feel nice to have a splash of color or this particular curve. And so it's not totally random.
She expresses herself in her art. You guys can do the same too.
Yeah, you don't have to do exactly what I'm doing. I mean, a big part of what I'm trying to show is that, you know, even though I have elements of reality, I mean, I try to do somewhat accurate stuff to an extent, it's kind of how I see things, like when I close my eyes and think about an object. So these are supposed to be the saccades that your eye sees. So is when your eye looks at an object, it's actually not seeing a steady image. Your eyeball is moving around the object a bunch of times per second, and those are called saccades, and then those get sent to your brain for processing, and your brain puts its memory that starts to, sensory memory that puts those pictures together into the solid image that your brain perceives. So what I do is I'm trying to capture those little images that your eye initially takes in before your brain gets a chance to put it together. Okay, now that I've stepped back a bit from this and looked at it, I think I thought I was done with the kettle, but I actually want to add just a tiny bit more, because once I looked at the object again, it's with the handle, the kettle feels tall, so I kind of want to give that feeling of height that this object has. Whereas before I started adding this, see, it feels a little clustered and just kind of rounded. So this is one thing I'll do. I think I'm done, and then I'm like, well, actually it doesn't feel quite right. And so I'll add a little bit more, but I'm not going to add the whole handle. I'm just going to add enough. I'm going to add just a tiny bit here as well. And there we've kind of implied some more height. And then I want to have just a tiny bit more of the spout. And I'm going to have it right about here. I really like the curves of that. That's actually part of why I picked this, in addition to the bright color. And we'll have one more view. Okay, so I've decided I want to add a little bit of the nose of the horse, just to have that shape, because it has that nasal bone up here is really pointed, and that would be a nice contrast to some of the more rounded curves we have. And since we'll have a green background here, that'll be some nice bright white. That'll be a cool shape. There we go. I'm just going to add that much. So another object we have here is this wine glass. Now this, I'm not going to have too much on it because it's clear, and so what I wanted to have it for was more just to have some extra lines, some cool curves. I may later add some of the little mites that are painted on it, especially in front of the horse, just to kind of break up that shape a bit. Oh, you rarely see me erase on these things, but it wasn't symmetrical enough. And we're going to have the bowl base here one more time. Okay, so I'm going to add a little bit more of the wine glass. I kind of just want it marching, and see it. This is something where I have the horse's leg here, and the horse's leg kind of ends, and then I have this wine glass stem following. So what that'll do is when you're looking, if you're not focused directly on that, you're going to think that's that horse's leg continuing, but then when you look closer, you'll realize it's actually the wine glass. And I do this sometimes, even if it's the same, like if you look at my work that's like just one animal or something, I'll do that sort of thing where it'll be one view of a leg and then like a view of another leg or something kind of merging into it, and you'll think it's all the same thing until you look closer. And it helps add add some movement to it, which is kind of cool. And I really want the sense of that stem, so I'm kind of having it march along here, like that. Cool. One last tip here, there. And that's where I decided to have the wine glass, so slightly off center. So, I have this egg. It's a little painted porcelain egg, and I kind of wanted that shape in there. So I'm going to have it like this, so it'll almost look like a couple of different eggs.
You know, I didn't get to see that earlier when we did the introduction, I don't believe.
Oh yeah.
But it's right there.
Check it out.
It's pretty cool looking.
Yeah.
There's a fly in the video too. He wants to be a part of that. Nice.
Have a little house fly in here. But the main thing I wanted on this egg, in addition to some little curves, of course, was this pink flower. So I'm just kind of hinting at it, and I may even add it in a few other parts where there is no egg. Okay, so I'm going to add just a tiny line here on the egg, as well as I wanted that underside there. Now I have this egg timer. It's a little hourglass. I didn't think of that when I placed it there. It's kind of funny, but
don't let her lie to you. She thought of everything. She a perfectionist. Yeah.
Well, it's kind of fun sometimes when you do something and later you realize, hey, actually, that seems like I had more thought than I did. But the reason I put it here originally was I wanted something, a taller object that was more straight next to the short, curvy egg. That way, now we're going to do something similar to the wine glass, where to help show off the height, I am just having a little bit of the bars of the hourglass marching up. And then I'm going to add a little bit of the actual body of the glass here. Just a little bit there, because I wanted that shape there. And I'm also going to kind of put it here, where we have our egg, because I just really want to juxtapose the angles of the hourglass with those of the egg. Alright, so also putting it a little bit here next to this one, and then I'm going to have one part right here, and I lied, one more tiny bit here. Sometimes I'll think I'm done and then I see the whole picture again after I do a sweep over, and I'm like, wait, actually it needs a tiny bit more. So it's always important to step back and look at your full piece before you decide you're completely done. So here's what we have so far. We've got our hourglass, our wine glass, the egg, a little bit of flowers of the egg, our horse, kettle, and then the walking sculpture of a horse. So that's what we're going to start with for the sketch, and now we'll be able to add some of the color. Alright, so we got to get started on the sketch here, and what we're going to do next episode is start coloring like I did here. So this I did very similar, where I sketched and then added color. Although the one difference here is I would sketch a little bit of one object and then I would color that before I went on to sketch the next. So that seemed to be a very effective technique, especially as I was on the interstate. Well, I wasn't driving, obviously, but
yeah, she was.
Shh, don't tell
She's
anyone.
that skilled.
Don't tell anyone. So I did that just so, since I was coloring these things that were zipping past me at 70 miles per hour or whatever. So it was helpful to color them before that image was gone, because I couldn't reference it again. Whereas with a still life,
so you was driving 70 miles an hour and coloring at the same time? Dang.
I'm good at what I do. Okay, that is hardcore art. So, but we have an easier time with a still life or something that's in your own home, or a portrait or something, is that you can sit there and do all the sketching and get the composition of the objects down on the paper before you start adding color. So that's two different techniques. Both are very good. Although this one, if you are in a moving vehicle, definitely go with the method of coloring as you go, because yeah, I wouldn't have been able to do that otherwise. So next episode, we will start coloring this, and you'll get to see it really come to life, and we'll also add some ink, because that's what I did here. Was after I colored to make everything pop, I went in with my fountain pen, like we did a few episodes again, and added some ink. And it is a little tricky adding ink over colored pencil that's layered on heavily, but I'll show you how to work with that when we get there. So, don't forget that even though this grass looks delicious and you may be vegetarian and be looking at that grass like, I love me some grass, don't eat it. It's just art. Don't eat the art. This looks like banana. Do not eat it. It does not taste like banana.
So again, ladies and gentlemen, we'll have another episode for you soon. We will be coloring, so tune in next time. It's gonna be amazing.